Okay, and I am now recording the video.
And did you want me to respond back to you in chat or verbally like this?
Verbally is fine. Okay, I'm just launching the presentation. Are you able to see a big screen that says Bluzelle solving the world's database problems?
Yeah, great. Love the colors, love the font.
Okay, so thanks everybody for joining in. This is our presentation. It'll take about, because of time constraints now, normally it takes about 20 minutes. I'll probably do this in 15. A lot of you guys are familiar with some of the stuff about us. And then we'll have some time for some questions. So first thing we want to address is overall of what Bluzelle is really doing. And the whole goal of us as a mission, as a company, is to take back control of our lives in this online world. So what the image you see here is actually the cover of The Economist from about just a month ago. As you can see, they're showcasing how these three tech giants are really just running rampant over our world. Those three being Google, Facebook, Amazon. So when it comes to our online behavior, tracking what we do, our personal data, it's really managed by these three companies. And having it controlled by three, small group of companies and centralizing it is not very safe or secure for any of us. And that's the reason a lot of us got excited about blockchain and building a new decentralized internet, was a way to actually take away power from these groups and give it back to the masses. This slide really is to demonstrate what we're doing overall as in the world ecosystem of building this decentralized internet. And so what we try to compare here is how Bluzelle or how the decentralized internet stacks up against the old internet and follows the same kind of model. You've got applications, so you've got status, which is instant messaging over, using the blockchain principles. Well, that's like WhatsApp. You have an operating system that would be, we use Ethereum, Neo, other places to build upon these new applications. Well, that'd be equivalent to Mac OS, iOS, or Android. We got to store files somewhere. You've got projects like Filecoin, storage coming out. Well, in the traditional world, you'd have AWS or Dropbox, similar. Finally, a big piece is data storage and management. That's where Bluzelle comes in. In the traditional world, you had Oracle, and as we've always said, we want to take that place and be the data storage and management layer of the decentralized internet ecosystem. And there's other projects out there like Golem doing computer processing and rendering and so on. Going back to our initial problem solution, and this is something we believe all blockchain projects should be addressing, is a critical problem solution. The big thing is that why this is important now than ever is that we've got a huge amount of data coming across and transacted by devices. In 2020, here's some stats. There'll be 4 billion connected people. That'll be basically half the world's planet, half the planet on, and people using it. You'll have connected average 6 devices per person. That yields to 25 billion devices. So that would be, your phone, your computer, IoT, watches, all those type of things. And when you have so many devices, what you're going to have is millions and millions of apps, which leads to large and exponential amounts of data being exchanged by everything at every second of the day. Now, the problem is that the current internet and how it's set up lacks the security controls to manage all that data. This leads to some of the headlines over the past year. And the main thing is that things are going to get worse before they get better. You had breaches like Equifax, where there was over 200 million records stolen of people's personal private data, which was used for, getting them loans and leases and mortgages. Highly personal information. You've got Uber that had a big one. It's getting so bad that even Congress in the US is thinking about putting people in jail, executives who are trying to cover up things. Once again, it comes down to the current internet as we know it is controlled by few, lacks a lot of security, and because of all the free software we give, they're starting to basically have data breaches in them. Now, this is something that we always like to touch on is explaining the decentralized internet and why we believe using blockchain principles will lead to a better product and a better and safer internet, particularly to us building a better database system. So on the far left there, you've got the past, which is one single stack where everything runs down. You've got, this would be one stack held on premise of, let's say, an office or a company. The problem there is if any of those systems go down, the file system, file medium, the entire database can go down, and now you don't have any access to the data you need to create your product. It also has multiple points of entry, which allows vulnerabilities, which leads to hacks and changes in the data. Fast forward, let's say 10, 12 years ago, we went to the present state that we have, which is, a centralized model on the cloud seems easier, and it's much better than the single system model, but still multiple points of failure. One zone, the load balance can go down. Now all of a sudden the entire database structures go down, and as an application provider, the company can't get that information they need. Somebody could break into zone one, which would be a cluster, steal all that data, but then use minimal efforts and go into zone two, and is able to steal more data and all of it. So once again, you've got multiple points of entry where things are vulnerable, and you can change that information. The future that Bluzelle's doing is a decentralized model, and this is the same type of decentralized figure you've seen for Bitcoin, Ethereum, any other type of blockchain project. Now we're just applying to databases. All those nodes you see there are running the Bluzelle protocol, and data is stored in all those places. Now, if any of those nodes go down, the system stays alive. So it's persistent and no single point of failure. Every single node is encrypted separately. And if something happens there, somebody breaks in, they can get, they're only going to get one piece of data, which I'll go into later of why even that is secured. And to take over and get an entire database structure or somebody's private information, they have to take over every single node, which is once again encrypted separately, which means it's almost impossible to do to take over an entire network to get everything. And how Bluzelle works, as always said, is the application provider pays in a Bluzelle token, and us as users, I offer up my computer space at home, laptop, anything that's not being used, and we're able to then earn a Bluzelle coin because instead of mining for Bitcoin or something else, what we're saying is use my storage space. And as things are earned out and more applications using it, I can use those coins, which I can redeem later on and either save them or sell them for something else or trade them for another coin for another product. So by using this, you've got more security, higher security, enhanced reliability, and better scalability. Now, the technology, the main three things that we want to touch on is first, how your data is protected. And one way we look at it is 2D partitioning, which means we're sharding the data. A good way to picture this is imagine you create a database of, your customer list, and you have the name, last name, address, email, and so on. So that's a database. Imagine that's all printed on a plate. What we do is take that plate, smash it on the ground to thousands of pieces. Then we take each of those pieces and scatter them all across our different nodes on the network. So once again, even if somebody got into one node somehow and stole the data, all they got was a little piece that might say P8 instead of Pavel, it says PAV. That's meaningless. It has no information. For them to put the entire plate back together, they have to take over the entire network, which is, as Bitcoin is shown and blockchain securities, virtually impossible. So that's how you're protected. So by swarming, what we mean is this is how we make sure that the database runs fast and is reliable for all our users. By that means that instead of in the current blockchain space with Ethereum and Bitcoin, you need consensus at a universal level. That's why it takes so long. What we're saying is, yes, we have the universe, but we also have galaxies. So a galaxy would be like a mini swarm, which allows us to basically arrive to consensus at that swarm level, which allows the user, the application provider who wants to get the data, to be able to retrieve it, create, write, update, delete in a very fast way, just like any other database, without having to wait for the entire blockchain to come to consensus. This slide here, now I'm going to hit play, and what you're seeing is an actual demo of one of our swarms in action, and this is the type of product that's going to come out soon for our users to use in June. On the far left, you see the data being committed to the network and create, read, update, delete. In the middle, you're seeing all the nodes on the network. Green means that the node is alive. Red means something is dropped off. And blue, you'll see, is a new node's come on. The key takeaway here we want to show you is on the left, the data is still persistent and is still running, and people are still retrieving what they need, writing what they need, and updating. Even though you see these red nodes popping off, meaning that things are getting off our network, dying off, but the data stays persistent. Like I said, the blue ones mean new ones come on, so it just goes on and on and on, and this basically demonstrates the Bluzelle swarm in action with data persistency all the way through. And at the top left of one of the screens, you can see there's 12 nodes, drop down to 13, 11, come back up, and nothing has changed. It scales up, scales down, and it works well. This slide, what we like to do is apply this to, in the future, what we'd like to see. And as we've always said, is that Bluzelle, right now, the target market is blockchain applications or dApps, decentralized applications. But this can be used for any other product in the future, and then further down the line, big enterprises. So the demo we like to do here is just kind of tie it together as if you had a PlayStation. The PlayStation has a large amount of storage. Current ones have 1 terabyte. Now, if you have kids, that's probably more storage that they're ever going to use. On the other hand, you've got people who are paying $60 for a game. And then on the other side, you've got EA that created FIFA. And EA, even though they sold this game, they're still required to do more and add value to the player. That means they're running leagues, they're pushing roster updates, they are calculating wins and loss records from me and my friends all playing against each other, on and on. All that data has to be stored somewhere, and usually they're doing it, whether it's with Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, or IBM Cloud, and it's a huge operational cost. Now imagine when Bluzelle is deployed to all the PlayStations that are out there. These PlayStations are already networked. They're running these games online. Now let's just turn them all into nodes on our network. Now what happens? EA is happy because they're saying, hey, instead of us storing all this data for all these leagues we're running and paying all these amounts to, let's say, IBM and everybody else, let's store it on the PlayStations that are already from our users who are already engaged with us. And by giving that data, they provide that stored on the network, and they pay with a Bluzelle token. The player, let's say you guys, you're sitting there and going, hey, I paid $60 for this game, but awesome. I can earn back some of that money in a Bluzelle token because I allowed my PlayStation to be a storage unit for all these games to store their data on, and it still runs smooth and efficient. So it's a true crypto economy. It's a marketplace, and it's a win-win for all parties. EA wins because they've reduced all their operational costs. The player wins because he's maximizing the use of his PlayStation and earning revenue back for it. If you've been following our blogs and everything along, you'll know that one of the projects we're working with is 0x, their protocol. And how 0x, how we tie in with them is that what we want to do is build into their protocol and give them a value add for their relayers. And relayers are the people who are taking all the orders on the decentralized exchange. And by doing that, what we're giving them is a proper way to keep all their order books in a consistent manner that everybody can receive, and it can run, allow everything to run properly. So in this situation, the relayer, if your X protocol is built on Ethereum, the relayer, it's connected through, basically our smart contracts, and whether they're on C++, C#, Python, they'll be able to connect to the Bluzelle protocol. The relayer basically needs to commit an order because somebody's transacting over the decentralized exchange. A read request is done. The Bluzelle network gets that request, knows that it's coming from this relayer because they have the public and private keys are shared with us on our network. We look up on the swarm where it's where this information is, and basically we send that back to the relayer as a private key request. They decrypt it because they have the private keys to do so, and it goes on and on. So in a real simple manner, the relayer's got what they need. 0x has a value add service to add, and everybody wins. You guys know about the Bluzelle team, myself, Neeraj, and most of you guys know how Prashant Malik is the creator of Cassandra database, which came out of Facebook. It was one of the first distributed databases out there, and still one of the more popular ones. He joined us as an advisor because he saw that the decentralized database we're building is the next level of the internet, of the vision that he saw. So he's there to solve a lot of the challenges that are becoming to us. Alex Leverington, we want to point out, he was one of the core developers of Ethereum from the beginning. So he had their vision of the decentralized internet and what they wanted to do and where they saw Ethereum going. He sees Bluzelle's database solving a huge problem area that he sees coming down the line. And because of his experience, he's advising us on our roadmap and some of the challenges we're going to have and how to get over that. As if you've been probably following our blog, we gave an update last week on the product of what you're going to be seeing in the next major release. In between now and June, we are going to be putting stuff on our GitHub and showing people what's going on. But the main thing we want to show is that in June, you'll have a product that's a single swarm database. People using it will be able to create, read, update, and delete over that single swarm. And out of the box, we're going to have libraries built. So if you're specifically for Ethereum with Solidity and Neo with their Python. So that means that if you're building a dApp on either of those, Ethereum or Neo, you'll be able to start running some of your data on this alpha version of the product. And then we're also talking to a number of others, as you know, like Zilliqa and other ones that we'll be announcing soon about integrating with them, building those libraries. So hopefully those come on live as well, and we'll have a whole set of platforms out there that are be able to use Bluzelle as a database for them. So that's going to be really important. So the next thing now is really, if you guys are developers, you can join our Slack channel, which is really focused on product development, keeping everybody informed, talking with the open source community and the plans we have there, which Nitin's really looking after. If you're a crypto enthusiast and really into this technology, most of you guys are on our Bluzelle Telegram or through our email site, email list, which is on our website. So that's what's happening now. We also are onboarding more and more companies through our developer program with Nitin. So if you guys are interested, just message us anytime through all these places, and you guys could figure out how to get into the funnel and move along so you can be an early user of the June release. With that, we can move to questions and answers. Any questions? Nitin, if you've got some, we can pass them over.
Sure, no worries. So I think the group is still, and it looks like we've got a good showing. A lot of folks managed to jump over from YouTube, so thanks to everyone for your patience in that regard with the technology issues. We've got one question from Yash, who's asking about the 0x example again. Yash didn't quite catch it the first time. If you could just explain that again.
Yeah.
And at the same, sorry, and while Pavel's doing that, if everybody wanted to start typing in their questions into the chat box, I'd be happy to relay them on to him for the discussion.
And again, we'll share this video out as well. So thanks, Yash. So with 0x, in this situation, 0x is a collaborator of ours. So they're not an actual customer of Bluzelle. What the customer is actually 0x's customer, which are the relayers. Relayers in a decentralized exchange like 0x are there to basically take the orders of the buy and asks of each of the different tokens that are available on there. Now, a critical thing for 0x is to give the relayers a proper best practices way to manage their order books, because there really isn't a systematic one, and everybody kind of does it on their own. So with Bluzelle as a database being built into 0x to say that, hey, here's a value add of you being able to use a new database to manage your order books. So what happens in this situation is the relayer has their order books, through a database with Bluzelle. They make a read request. What happens in step 2 is Bluzelle gets that request from them and goes and finds which node on our network has the best answer that they need. And we know the data on there is consistent. It's already come to consensus that it's true. So we find the swarm. It could be the one that's closest to that relayer, the node that's closest to them, or the one that's fastest on the swarm. And it would basically return that answer back. And the only way who can unlock and get that answer is that relayer who has the private key to unlock it, just like it was a Bitcoin transaction. And then, it goes to the next step. So really, it's just a simple transaction of private keys and public keys being exchanged. We look up on the swarm what they need, that relayer needs, and send back the information. Hopefully that answered that.
Awesome. That was a great answer. Thanks, Pavel. So MK Mani was just verifying then, so 0x is the Ethereum relay. Do we use any Neo relays or Zilliqa relays, perhaps in the future?
Well, Zilliqa would be like if somebody's building a decentralized exchange over Zilliqa. So the relayer doesn't really come into that. Relayer is just for it comes in the context of a user is for decentralized exchanges. What you want to refer to is with Neo is, okay, how do people connect to Neo? Well, we're creating a set of libraries with Neo that will allow them to talk to our API layer. And in doing so, what Neo would say is, hey, everybody, guess what? You need a decentralized database to save your data on. Neo, the language is already integrated into Bluzelle. You'll simply be able to start using Bluzelle as a database layer because it's tied into Neo. Zilliqa will do the same. They'll create a set of libraries that connect to our API, and then they can say to others that, hey, if you're building a dApp on Zilliqa, guess what? We got a database solution for you. It's Bluzelle. It's already tied in.
Excellent. One question that everybody's probably thinking about, but was brought to the forefront by an individual named David, was that David's a developer of distributed applications, specifically on EOS. And he's really interested in using our database as the backend for his application. He's wondering about where's the API for that? Like, he's using JavaScript, and he's wondering when or what that would look like.
So that's that's good. It's good to know, and this is something that we'll be doing through our developer channels of which platforms people are going on and understanding. And what we can do is we will, we just basically have to talk to EOS and say, hey, where the development's at, and how can they build out libraries that can connect to us as well, to our API layer, and have that going in. So it's just a matter of just resources and picking which ones we can talk to and move along our line. So knowing that you're building something in EOS and you're excited, and we find out, hey, there's more developers on there, we will reach out to EOS sooner than later. So it's good that you brought that up.
Awesome. And then I think I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer it. It's in regards to using our software, in regards to somebody using our software as a storage for their information, how they get billed if say the application scales like crazy. So they're wondering about how do they get billed for using our database And I guess that could also be reflected on the people who are thinking about storing the data on their machines and renting it out. How do we adjust for that volatility in the reward there?
Well, Nitin, I'll let you answer that because you wanted to.
Cool. I was in the middle of trying to answer David's other question about searching encrypted data. Okay, actually, you know what? I'll do both. So David had a question about searching encrypted data, and so David, there is a protocol. It's something we're in the middle of working through right now to search encrypted data. There's a way to do it without having to decrypt the data first, because you can imagine if we had a database of information and it was all encrypted, searching that would be really messy and really inefficient. But there is a way to index, I guess, using metadata or something like that. I'd have to look into the exact science of the algorithm that we're implementing to search encrypted data. So you don't have to handle that. That was your question. Do you have to handle searching encrypted data? No, we'll take care of that for you. The next question is, it was also from David, sorry. So yeah, the question was, as I just mentioned to Pavel, so let's say somebody is renting out space on their machine. How do we calculate the reward, so to speak? And then conversely, if somebody has been using our machine, and then how do we build them out? So it's both ways. The answer is kind of the same. It's an economy of supply and demand. So obviously, if the read costs, like if the read is pretty low cost, or the write, like to create, update, or delete, which are higher cost type things, then if you're talking about piece by piece, those would be relative to each other. So reads would cost lower than writes, or updates or deletes. But then also the costs are going to vary based on things like how much data do you have? What's the pipeline you need to get to that data? Like what performance level do you need for it? And just the size of the network that you're using. Like, are you just running a test, or are you running a full blown up to the max production machine? So there are a few different variables that come into play in how we calculate what the cost is to the person storing information, as well as what we reward the people who are storing the information in their node. Obviously, we're also very sensitive and aware of the volatility in the cryptocurrency market. So we're not. That's why that's why we're using our internal BNT token, which is exchanged for the BLZ token that you can buy in the exchanges. So we also are taking that into account when we do put together the I guess you could say the fee structure for that business of
also,
storing.
one thing to add is that people always ask is like, if BLZ all of a sudden starts going up in price, is it going to cost more to store this data? Because let's say if it goes up 10x or 100x, all of a sudden the cost goes up. No, the price of the service will always be, based on, let's say, not in a US dollar value. So let's just say, for whatever sake, it's like, I don't know, costs $1. And all of a sudden, BLZ goes up during that time of usage, 50%. Now it shouldn't cost 50% more. All it'll be is it'll just cost less BLZ tokens to make that US $1 service. So that way, the cost of the service will always stay consistent regardless of the price of the BLZ token.
Awesome. Thanks, Pavel. Another question from MK Mani, and I wanted to address this because it reflects a little bit of a muddying of concepts, was will Bluzelle be dependent on Filecoin or Storj? So the thing about Filecoin and Storj are that they are file storage models where you would store just almost like nearly blobs, but not quite blobs, but just chunks of data into their storage structure. But Bluzelle is a database. It's a pure play database engine. So you would store data into our database. So the question about will Bluzelle be dependent on Filecoin or Storj is actually it implies that that there could be some relation, but they're not. They're separate products. Therefore, we won't be dependent upon it, nor will we kind of are indifferent. Apples and oranges is the best way to describe it. Whitney from Whitney's Phone, nice name, asked a question about what's our marketing strategy. I think that's something that Pavel will push that off to maybe a blog or something like that. And is that for today? I don't think we'll talk about marketing today, right?
What was the marketing question?
It was just about what's the marketing strategy, a broad kind of question.
Oh, I mean, general right now is, I can answer that pretty quick. The main thing is, once again, is focus on blockchain projects and applications. And that is really around, a lot of it's going to be around guerrilla marketing, webinars, things like what we're doing right now to increase our presence. We're starting to do hackathons in different places. We're doing one in Vancouver, already planning to do one in Korea, potentially in Taiwan as well. We're going to build out, doing our developer meetups in different cities. Part of our goal is to have evangelists in different cities who'll start basically running Bluzelle meetups for the product as it gets further and further along without us even being involved. And that's how we're just going to grow that network effect in our own community ecosystem. Similar to what the top projects used to do before, like Cloudflare, Firebase, even Heroku. And these are classic technologies that are used and just built up their awareness. Even Adobe did the kind of same thing. So for the next 6 months, a lot of our strategy is going to be guerrilla tactics, webinars, and community building, because that's how traditional developer software has always worked.
Cool, thanks, Pavel. The other thing also, there was a question from Yash that I wanted to address. They're saying maintaining more nodes could have an effect on speed, right? Not necessarily, Yash, because if you think about how consensus works, and we're using concepts of the blockchain when we build our database engine, even though we're not putting our database on the blockchain, just want to make that clear right away, was that so the way consensus works is that you only have to reach a certain number of nodes to get consensus. You don't have to talk to 100% of the nodes to get consensus. And then even with those nodes that do provide the response and the feedback, they have to meet certain thresholds of quality and such. So Yash asked a question of maintaining more nodes could have an effect on speed, right? Not really, because the more nodes you would have, consensus to achieve consensus only requires a few degrees more. It's like taking half of all the nodes out just to get to. I mean, I'm being really crude with the numbers, but you're really dealing with a subset of the nodes that get back fastest and most efficiently, and then the consensus algorithm takes over to say that are these the right ones making the decision. So yeah, I mean, I guess it could have an effect on speed, but it would be very, very minor. Another question, Pavel, that maybe you can answer is from Mike or MK Money, is that do we have any competitors?
The main competitor that we've been looking at is Big Chain DB. They they've been around for a couple of years. From what we know, their strategy has been more on the enterprises, and by doing that, they take more of an on-premise approach where they'll give, let's say, a big enterprise their own decentralized network to use within that enterprise, and by doing so, it requires them to run a hardware stack and run it on-premise. Our approach is different. We're focusing more on blockchain projects, small companies, and saying, don't run any hardware stack, don't manage anything, just plug to our network and that'll take care of everything else. So there's multiple ways to skin a cat, as they say, depending on which target market you're going for. So the fortunate thing is when you're doing B2B software like this, you can have multiple players all doing well. Dropbox, for example, in the traditional cloud storage of files, was maybe like the 100th entrant in there. When you have consumer to consumer, just direct consumer products, you can only have one winner. Like you can only have one Instagram or one Facebook. All others don't take any market share. When you got B2B, other companies have different types of needs and solutions. So that's a nice thing about this.
Cool, thanks. Just wanted to be sensitive to the time. I know we did start a little bit late. There are a few more questions, but how much more time should we be going for?
I mean, if there's a couple more questions, we can go for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
What I'd also like to do is if everybody can privately message Nitin with their email addresses, we want to send QR codes to people so they can, get some free merchandise that we have set up for this. So once again, just through the chat to send, I think they can send you a private message. And as long as we've got all their email addresses, we'll shoot them over something.
Yeah, there you go, guys. Just message me privately your QR codes or your email addresses, and we'll send you the QR code. So a couple more questions. Actually, one that I can probably handle here because it's kind of in my domain is from Mike P. Mike is saying that did we see zero chain at token 2049? He describes he said, is there a possibility for partnership or collaboration, or would we consider them direct competition? They will be their own.
I actually did talk to them.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Yeah, so I was at token 24 and met up with Zero Chain. Oh no, they're definitely they're not competition. We're complementary. So what they want to do, what they're doing is offering cloud storage or cloud space for in a tokenized manner for their customers, and then part of that could plug into would be is database is just one area of, instead of it's basically a way to use the cloud as a node in a safer, secure way to have the data sit on, as opposed to having hardware. So it's an interesting thing that came up, and we talked about, okay, how can we make that work and provide actually even better value to all our customers? So that it's funny that you brought them up. I actually just met with them like about 12 hours ago and sat down and started scoping out ideas of how we can work together.
Nice. Thanks for catching that.
I think one thing to add there is like what's really cool about this space is where before, like 20 years ago, all the companies and the giants always, or even the ones coming up, were always trying to stay in a silo, be separate, and not work with others because they want to control everything. In the new blockchain world, you're seeing is that, we're all in this together. We're all trying to figure this stuff out and build better products for the masses. And what that requires is collaborations and information sharing and seeing how the entire ecosystem can build together.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a really great community to be a part of. As a director of developer relations, I often talk to our partners, and it's great to see that everybody's interested in working together rather than just siloing themselves off and building their own fiefdoms. We'll just take 2 more questions. Where did it go? Sorry, I just lost my page for a moment. Give me a second. Oh, right. So first from Olaolu, what are the benefits of holding a large amount of BLZ tokens? I guess you'll be fairly wealthy in the long run. That's kind of it.
That's one of them. Or you also have, you'll have a lot of tokens there theoretically that you can use to acquire more storage space if you're building a crazy product. So I guess that's really it right now. So long term is as the product gets better, hopefully the price increases as demand for the product goes up, and the value of the product, and you can also have a bunch of places to store a large amount of data. Cool.
And then for the last question we've got here, there was a couple actually who asked about this. There's an Icon meetup in Singapore. Apparently Bluzelle is one participant along with a few others, Tink, Blue Whale, Kyber, Sentinel. And they're just asking what kind of a meetup this is going to be.
So one of it is Icon is right now, they're friends of ours. We've known them for, a long time, about 6 months. They're going, their mainnet is up. So they're going around Asia specifically to certain cities to show how Icon's working. And then they're also inviting over the projects that they've been interested in to add to their ecosystem and see how it works. So let's say Sentinel, we know those guys, that team, they're doing security intelligence on the blockchain, so that can tie into Icon. Icon also sees that, hey, database is going to be need data storage, and that could potentially plug into the Icon ecosystem, because as people build on there, once again, they have a value add product like Bluzelle ready to go. So the main thing of that meetup tomorrow is for all those 4 companies to be showcasing what they do and how they all kind of connect and collaborate and work with each other.
Awesome.
And
well,
same thing. We're also doing one in Hong Kong the same night, where I'll be doing that one, and that's where Gollum, Gnosis, and Kyber are presenting, and Bluzelle as well. And that one is mainly to show once again to the Hong Kong community 4 great projects that have come out through the past year, heavily technology focused, and all 4 have lots of great advisors and technologists behind it. And pretty much are almost infrastructure plays.
Oops. Awesome. There you go. So yeah, I think that comes to the end of our webinar for today. You guys are still sending me some of your emails, so I'll hang on till the last ones come through. And we do appreciate all of you attending today. I think Paul did mention at the beginning that this will be recorded for posterity.
Yeah, so we'll get that. We'll try to edit it down, and then we'll just post it up through the channel so everybody can share it, watch it, share it with people who haven't had a chance. And then what we're hoping to do is in the next couple of weeks or the next month to do another one. And hopefully we'll just keep do these on a regular basis and have more and more to showcase. Thanks, guys, for your patience on it, too.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.